most places around the country, although I think in the West Coast and actually maybe still in the Mountain time zone, it's morning. But for everyone else, we're in the afternoon. But I'm sitting down to drink my second cup of coffee. I haven't been online in a few days, actually since last week, because of, well, I was on last week around Thanksgiving, but I wanted to get on and talk about a few topics just this morning. So as I do always, I want to start by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you from Washington, D.C., which is historically the land of the Piscataway. And I want to honor and thank the Piscataway for being the people indigenous to these lands, and I want to thank them for their stewardship of these lands. If you notice, I have a bit of a different setting here. I've been working hard over this past week to set up a bit more of a relaxed environment. And one of the things I really like about living in Washington, D.C., is that you can sit in coffee shops and you never know who's going to walk into the coffee shop. I've actually been sitting in a local coffee shop here in DC. This was, of course, pre-pandemic, and had a friend walk in from across the country, actually from the Pacific Coast. And they just happened to be in town, and they were in that coffee shop that day, and we had sat down and had a good conversation. And because there's so many people who come in and out of DC, you never know who you're going to meet. I've met friends randomly and acquaintances randomly from around the country who just happen to be in DC, and because DC is a small city, we end up running into each other. And so understanding that the pandemic, and right now we are at kind of the height of the pandemic. If you have been following, you'll know that yesterday we had over 3,000 deaths in this nation due to COVID-19, and hospitalizations and new infections are on the rise, especially because of the travel and the gatherings that happened over Thanksgiving. And so we're really in kind of the height of the pandemic, and there's a lot of orders going on around the country encouraging people to stay home, to social distance, to wear masks. And I'm anticipating that we are probably going to be living a fairly disrupted life due to the pandemic for the next year. So I wanted to find a way to stay sane in the midst of this, to be psychologically and emotionally healthy during this pandemic. And one of the things that I loved to do pre-pandemic was to sit in coffee shops and to meet people and just kind of hang out. And one of the things I don't like about Zoom calls, one of the things I don't like about all of the virtual stuff, is you kind of have this Brady Bunch feel, right? For those of you who are a bit too young to know what the Brady Bunch was, they were this classic 70s TV show. And they had the introduction. They had, what, 6 family members, and they put them on squares on the screen, just like a Zoom call. And, you know, I don't like being on Zoom calls all day. I don't like sitting right in front of my computer. I don't like staring at a small screen, and I don't like the Brady Bunch feel of it all. And so after the campaign ended, and I realized that, yeah, we're probably going to be disrupted for another 9 to 12 months. I thought I need to find a way to make this more relaxing. And so we set about kind of rearranging our furniture and setting a bit more of a coffee shop type vibe or feel in our downstairs basement, where I do some of my live streaming from. And so we set up this more coffee shop like feel. I have a more comfortable table, a chair. You can actually see my coffee cup. I'm actually watching the live stream on our large screen television, so it's a bit further away and a bit more life size. And it just feels a bit more relaxed. It feels a bit more at home. And I'm actually hoping to start meeting with people just to have a cup of coffee and just to sit down and talk and chat like this. And I wanted to start doing my second cup of coffee live streams from the same setting. So today's the first time I'm doing it, and I'm seeing what it feels like and how it looks. But hopefully this will become a bit more of a familiar space to everybody as I do future live streams from this moving forward. So one of the first things I want to talk about this morning is obviously the pandemic. And I want to encourage everybody, please social distance, stay home. The infection rates are rising very quickly. I know that there's a vaccine on the horizon, and I know that we are tired of living these socially distanced lives. But for your own health and your own benefit, as well as for the health and benefit of those most vulnerable in your community, please make sure that you continue to adhere to the social distancing guidelines. Please wear your mask wherever you go out publicly. Please keep your bubbles very tight and very small so that you don't endanger your own health or the health of those most vulnerable in your community. I also, like most other Americans, have been monitoring very closely the transition going on between the Trump and the Biden campaign. And I see and listen to and hear the rhetoric of President Trump refusing to concede this election, continuing to raise baseless claims of fraud, and continuing to really stir up problems and challenges, even in Georgia, where he's expected to go down and campaign this weekend for the 2 Senate races that are there. And I want to acknowledge that what he's doing is damaging for our country. And I do not condone it whatsoever. But I also, as I've tried to understand what President Trump is doing, is I've reminded myself that he lives in a binary. And his binary is one where he either has to be the hero or the victim. He has no other middle ground. And his entire brand is on him being the hero and him winning. And now that he is very clearly lost, he's trying to figure out how to protect his brand and how to fit into this binary that he exists in. And so he doesn't know how to lose without destroying his brand. And so the only way he can lose without destroying his brand is if somehow he can paint himself as the victim. And so he's raising these baseless claims of fraud, at least telling his supporters and his base that he is a victim. And so when he does finally walk off the stage at the inauguration, at least he will be able to tell his base that he lost, it's because he was a victim and not because he just lost. And so, yeah, I remind myself that daily he has this binary. I also remind myself daily that he lives in a environment, in a world, and displays all of the classic symptoms of narcissism, and has to keep himself at the center of every dialogue. And for the last 4 years, he has been the center of not only his own world, but of the global, the globe. He's been at the center of all that. And I would imagine for a narcissist, the thought of leaving such a central space of attention would be troubling or problematic. And so I want to, I remind myself frequently that while I can't diagnose him, he displays all the symptoms of a classic narcissist. And I need to remind myself of that daily in dealing with him. I did that during the campaign, and I'm even doing that now as I watch his antics and his behavior of what he's doing. And I also wanted to remind people not to listen to all the propaganda from CNN and from Fox News. And remember that they're going to exacerbate issues and make them worse and try to paint one side as the problem, when really it's both sides that are the problem. And so one of the things I saw just the other day, and we'll talk more about this if this happens, but one of the attempts I'm expecting President Trump to make, as even now he's giving up his lawsuits, he's focusing more on sitting down with government leaders and senators and members of state congresses in Michigan and other places to try and get them to change the electoral votes in their states. I heard a report that Giuliani was actually doing that, I think, with some state representatives in Michigan to tell them that they are now responsible for putting President Trump back into office. And that, I think, is going to become even more explicit. And he is going to begin focusing more of his attention on the Electoral College, including trying to encourage senators and members of Congress to not confirm the vote of the Electoral College. He hasn't done that yet, but I'm anticipating that's something he's going to do. I read an article about it just the other day. And I want to make sure that people know that, especially the propaganda news sites like CNN and like MSNBC and like Fox News are going to lay this out as a torpedo blast to our democracy. And we need to realize that that's actually not the case. That has happened before, and it has even brought about some debate on congressional floors in the past. In fact, the Democrats did it in 2016 after Hillary Clinton's loss to Donald Trump, and there was an attempt to bring a debate to the floor in the Senate to not accept or not confirm the votes of the Electoral College. And it happened back in 2005 and actually was successful in at least bringing the debate to the Senate floor. And so I'm actually expecting Donald Trump to make that move in the what's normally a procedural process of confirming the Electoral College vote. I'm expecting that he will try to get some member of Congress, either from the House or the Senate, to try and bring that debate to the Senate floor. To bring the debate, you have to have basically a support from both the House and the Senate. And so there's a chance it could happen. And I just want people to understand that this has happened in the past, and I'm not anticipating it will have any great effect, but the Democrats did it in 2016, and it happened and actually brought the debate to the floor in 2005. So if whatever your propaganda media of choice is, CNN or Fox News, if you hear about these attempts and they paint it as this is a torpedo blast to the heart of our democracy, it's not. It's happened before. I'm sure it will happen again, and I'm expecting it will happen by Donald Trump in December after the Electoral College votes on December 14. So anyway, just kind of be prepared for that. The other thing I wanted to talk about is a report I read in the AP News yesterday about Senator Jeff Merkley, who is from Oregon, and he brought a resolution which is now in committee to abolish slavery and to actually remove the clause from the 13th Amendment that would abolish slavery. I'm going to share a post in the comment section right now through our restreaming app of the AP article to abolish slavery. And one of the exciting things about this is he actually has support in both the House and in the Senate. And Senator Bernie Sanders is one of the supporters of this resolution. So at the moment, this resolution is in committee. And there doesn't sound like there's a lot of confidence it will come out of committee during this lame duck session. But Senator Jeff Merkley has stated that if it doesn't come out during this lame duck session, he will introduce it again in the next year in 2021. So hopefully he can get some traction then. And while I'm very disappointed that our campaign was not able to raise this issue to a national level during our campaign for president in 2020, I am thrilled that there is a resolution in the Senate now to remove that language from the 13th Amendment. And I want to make sure that I can do everything that we can to help shepherd this through Congress. And eventually, if it gets out of Congress into the vote on the Senate floor, and then obviously it would have to be ratified by the state, and we'll make sure that that ratification takes place as well. And one of the things, while I'm very excited that this resolution exists, and I'm going to be reaching out to Senator Merkley later this week or early next week to try and talk with him about his resolution. One of the things I'm concerned about, and this was even stated in the article, which is one of the supporting senators, I believe they were from the state of Missouri, stated that this was an effort to complete the work of Abraham Lincoln, right? Which is a myth, because Abraham Lincoln didn't give a crap about Black lives. And he was looking for a way to constitutionally institutionalize slavery and protect white supremacy. And so while I'm very excited that this resolution exists and that there's even a chance that this could become an amendment to our Constitution, I want to make sure the narrative, the mythology, doesn't get perpetuated. that we are somehow completing the vision and the dream of Abraham Lincoln. We're not. He was a blatant white supremacist. He did not believe Black Lives Mattered. He was committing genocide against Native peoples. And so while I want to do everything I can to help shepherd this bill, and to help encourage lawmakers to vote on it and to make sure we can get it ratified by the states, I also want to make sure we understand the proper history behind it. And so I plan to invest a lot of energy in not only making sure and doing everything I can to get this bill and this amendment passed and ratified, but I want to make sure that the history is taught correctly about our nation's systemic and foundational support for this institution of slavery. And so I'm going to continue to be talking about the doctrine of discovery, continue to be talking about our foundations, continue to teach the actual history of Abraham Lincoln and begin to deconstruct his legacy as we try to move this bill through Congress, or as Congress moves this bill through itself. I'm not in Congress, so I can't be involved there, but I can obviously work to kind of support it and to make sure it happens. So yeah, I'm excited. And I want to let people know that these are some things that I'm going to be investing my time and energy in. And these are some things that if we do end up starting a PAC, that we will be investing the resources and energy of that PAC into doing what we can to support members of Congress who are in support of this amendment. So exciting news. It actually feels like a great focal point of energy for me as we go into the next 2 years leading up to the midterm elections in 2022, and then the possible announcement of another campaign for president for the 2024 election. And so I think in the next 2 years, I want to invest a lot of energy in trying to make sure that this gets the attention it deserves. And I want to reach out to members of Congress and senators and governors to see that not only does it get passed by the Senate, but it gets ratified by the states. So yeah, this is exciting. And I'm sitting down to my second cup of coffee to share that with you. I'm in this kind of new coffee shop-like studio we've set up in our basement, and I'm looking forward to having some things that we can focus some energy on in the next few months and even over the next 2 years. So definitely stay tuned. And follow us on social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I am on TikTok. My personal account is Wireless Hogan on all of those properties. And we will still be posting some things on the former campaign account, which was Mark Charles 2020, but we're going to be doing a lot more through my personal social media accounts, including my YouTube channel, which is Wireless Hogan. So yeah, I hope everybody is doing well. I hope your second cup of coffee is going good. I'm excited to be able to invest energy in these. I actually, my schedule for the month of December is always much lighter. My speaking and writing schedule is much lighter during the month of December. And so I'm looking forward to having some time and to invest some energy into trying to move this forward into the next year, into 2021. So I can't hat my relatives. I hope that you have a beautiful day. In our setup here, I can actually read the comments a bit easier from my screen. And so I can follow the comments a bit more closely as you're making them. I want to thank everybody for joining me on this live stream. Walk in beauty, and may we learn how to walk in beauty together. Hakonet, my relatives.